Well, good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to the morning brief. It's a beautiful day, July 20, 2026. And some would say it's a brand new day, a brand new week. Welcome to the show where we wake you up with the latest news, lively conversations, and everything you need to know about Nigeria, the continent, and all around the world. I am Kelly Egiga. Good morning, guys.
And we're live for you from our global headquarters here in Lagos. Welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Jeffrey. There's a lot to unpack, so it's going to be breezy, quick, and with a lot of sprite. Let's get started. Before we get started with what I think you want us to get started with, did I say maybe four? Well, let's talk about security. First up, we want to say that we thank the troops for successfully foiling an attack and rescuing people somewhere in Borno State. And this would have been another statistic added to the ones we're already angry over, that the ease of abduction is becoming way too many. So when they do well, we will say thank you to all of the men and all the agencies that have been able to bring this to bear to ensure that our people are not in abductors den and that attack was foiled. I also want to remind ourselves that last week there were lots of questions as to, now that the Orire children and their teachers have been released or rescued from that particular bush, we were asking for, can we see the bodies? Or if we don't see the bodies, who are those that were arrested? Well, the DSS has finally filed a charge against 3 of them, 10-count charge on Friday. So we commend them. So we expect that this hearing or this judicial process will be expedited as much as possible so that everyone who is responsible for all of this will be brought to book. So on this, commendations all the way.
Indeed, commendations all the way, Jeffrey, especially also to our security agents who have been, at the center of operations, ensuring the rescue of the Orire children, ensuring the rescue of the Kwara children, ensuring the rescue of the Kogi children. And one thing that seems to stand out is the synergy, unlike what was obtainable in the past, between the armed forces, the police, the DSS, and other security agents in Kogi over the weekend. That was, one significant factor that also shaped the character of that operation. And perhaps, we require more of this subsequently. But because what we're also seeing is, the approach to targeting soft targets, going to schools either in Kogi or in Kwara, we're seeing that, these kidnappers, they seem to target schools. Our schools need to be safer, especially at this particular point in time. But we must thank our security operatives for a yeoman's job that they've been doing in the last couple of weeks. And we hope that, from here, we'll be telling better stories as far as security is concerned.
Yeah. Well, indeed, big commendations for the security agencies, like both of you have mentioned. I like the fact that, we have this rescue again in Borno State, but just to remind the security agencies that there are about 5 areas or so Senator Alin Dume had mentioned that there were kidnapping, so abductions. So while we celebrate this release, rescue, we expect that the others who are still in captivity will also get to regain their freedom. But guys, we are tracking so much for you. And in the world of sports, it was indeed a big night yesterday in New York. Or maybe I should say it earlier hours of this morning. I'm not sure now the time zone and difference.
No, it was late last night.
Last night, yeah. So, Spain, they are champions of the world. And just as I had mentioned on this show, where I'd said, look, there was that narrative that, Messi is going to perhaps pass on the torch to Lamine Yamal. Some will say, well, eventually played out. There are those who are saying, thank God Spain won, because Argentina has been favored all through the tournament. But guys, historic victory for Spain. Guys.
Well, I did hear over the weekend that millions of people around the world had signed a petition urging FIFA to remove Argentina from this World Cup, saying that FIFA was unduly favoring Messi because this is his last World Cup, and Argentina, to the defending champions, to winning the World Cup. And what What a commentary I heard with no objectivity at all, you know. Analysts rejoicing over the victory of Spain because of how Argentina, you know, played this particular match. And the talking point was also that this appears to be the trend. Of course, we'll be talking about this more later on the program, but it appears a well-deserved victory for Spain for how they have played their previous matches up until this one in this World Cup. And another match that stood out, guys, was England and what's the other country now? France.
The third place.
A thrilling win. It was a comeback for England, and thanks to Bukayo Saka, our own Bukayo Saka. Well, England has taken him now for the hat-trick that he played. So it was a fantastic end to the World Cup. Guys.
I like the sound of that. Our own Bukayo
Saka. It's not Bukayo Saka, it's Bukayo Saka. Is our own.
We like to claim success.
Our own Michael Olise as well.
Yeah, our own Michael Olise.
I did watch the match, and I was rooting for Spain, and I'm happy. Spain dominated, outplayed Argentina. Messi was missing. From the semi-finals, there was a rush of goals or gold rush to a final that we had gold drought, literally. In fact, it wasn't as pulsating as we expected it to be, but it's a final. Spain deserves this victory. In fact, I was chatting with our colleagues, Austin Okonokpa and the rest of them. Austin he was watching this match live. I said, look, if Spain loses this match, it's going to be very painful. So what the strategy was, from what I see, from what Scaloni did, was absorb the pressure for as long as you can, maybe for 70 minutes, and then give it some sprite and see how much you can bite. But all of that was botched by Spain, and they held on. Although I had issues with Spain trying to play too much samba like Arsenal, with greatest respect, you know, hit this thing and let this...
What's samba?
Don't worry, we'll talk about that.
Kelly, do you know what samba is?
One person I'll give that saved Argentina yesterday is their goalkeeper, Martinez. Literally, he did a lot of yeoman's job. It would have been horrific. 2 goals on target for 90 minutes extra time. So we're going to explore all of this with expert guests who understand sports a lot more. While Donald Trump was there, Infantino was there, record money is being made in this particular tournament. We're hearing big double digits in billions of euro. So will this pave the way for Infantino to keep his job despite the criticism of him being biased? But we'll talk about all of this. But Bukola, before we leave comments, congratulations. The women are in charge of the judiciary as we speak. So the Chief Judge of Nigeria, Kudura Kukekereko, a Lord Justice. We have the President of the Court of Appeal, and now we have the NBA President. Although there are lots of controversy around
the election.
In terms of electoral, there was just 33% of the voter turnout of voting that was recorded. But the record is out there. She is the second. But actually, she's the first elected.
Elected, because the first was appointed.
No, not appointed. The person, our principal, the president was appointed the Attorney General under, I think, the IBB government. So she naturally occupied the seat until that tenure.
So we could say it's an appointment, not an election.
Not really. She just selected.
Jeffrey,
she was elected to be vice president. No, I think she was elected to be vice president. Of course, like the president. But when the president now left to take up a public appointment, she naturally, just like president and vice president.
A substantive appointment. Does that suffice for you?
Well, congratulations to the Badijo Okunsoya, the new president of the Nigeria Bar Association. By the way, I couldn't help but notice, you know, this was very controversial. And there was a gentleman, I think I did the interview, that I even asked him, he said there's nothing like that, that said that maybe the establishment wanted him and all of that. Well, I haven't seen the president or his handlers congratulate this lady. So, there's a Bayo Nanuga, Sunday Dare, Boala, not that. Daniel Boala, who is a lawyer, so I'm expecting a congratulations. Else people will be reading meaning into this, because they will say that if it was the other guy that won, maybe by now the presidency would have responded.
Well, Jeffrey,
let the president
you do
respond.
have a point, especially particularly because of the politics that shaped this election. The reported letter from the Attorney General of the Federation interfering in the viewpoint of the leadership of the NBA in the process of electing a member. Perhaps, there were candidates that the establishment favored and all of that. But regardless of the hitches that, characterized the election, she won decisively with 12,300 plus votes, and the person that came close had about 7,000 votes, I believe. And that was a clear, statement from members of the NBA about who they want to lead the organization in the next couple of 2 years, I believe.
Yeah.
And so congratulations to
now that women are in charge, we expect a better judicial
system. I was just going to say that because, it's historic for the women. But guys, we are tracking so much for you. Let's take a moment now and we get to take a look at the papers. We're back in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's bring in Mr. Daya Akintobi, who is our guest analyst, a journalist joining us right here. Thank God it's Monday, Mr. Akintobi.
Yes, of course, always.
I can't wait to allow you just talk about Spain and Argentina. We had rain, literal goal rush on Saturday. That was like, is it a semi-final? And then we're looking for goals yesterday.
The key thing for me was I was happy Spain won just simply because it showed the tournament was competitive. There's no dominance. If Argentina had repeated, it would start to look like, oh, there are some certain teams that are dominant or favored. The fact that Spain was able to come and win this thing shows the fact that many teams are evenly matched. No particular one is more dominant than another one, which makes for more interesting engagements in terms of it's competitive. That's what holds fans' attention. So I was happy that Spain won. I don't want to see a monopoly of the same team over and over and over again, because then it loses interest. But the fact that it's competitive enough to where every year every 4 years there's somebody new coming up into the fray simply means that it's a very competitive tournament, and it will continue to be relevant.
16 years after.
Yes, indeed.
The last win for Spain.
Yeah, the last. I think Spain won in Africa. The first one that happened in Africa. Lamine Yamal was about maybe 3-4 years old. Oh dear, some people are really.
Lamine don't suffer.
Let's go to the papers. This Nigeria is where we start off from. This Nigeria leads with that comments we made at the very beginning of the program. Troops rescue 46 students, foil ISWAP kidnap bid in Borno. FG arranged 3 over Oriri abduction. So we've seen consistent back-to-back record in terms of, attempts either by rescuing or by getting convictions. What do you make of this? Well,
the troops clearly are doing much better in recent times than they have in the past. I've always had this belief that our Nigerian fighting forces are very professional, that they're well trained, and that it might just be an issue of morale, an issue of compensation, that they were not that motivated. But it seems that in recent times they've had quite a number of successes that makes us quite happy and makes us proud of the fact that, we have the capability, if the political will is there, to fight this scourge to a standstill. Now, in terms of the 3 arraignments, the thing that I didn't see in the arraignment was a murder charge. And if these 3 people are connected to the Oriri kidnapping, we know categorically that at least 2 people lost their lives. So yeah, there's terrorism charges, there's kidnapping charges, but I think there should have also been murder charges as well, even though the penalty is probably no less severe for kidnapping than it is, for murder. But just for due process and for equity, fairness, and justice, I think they should be charged with everything that they've been accused or they allegedly did. And for murder to be missing among their charges gives me some concern.
So what if those responsible for the murder, in this case 2 teachers died, what if those who were responsible for the murder were part of the aides that the security operatives are telling us reportedly died in the exchange of fire amid this rescue? Should these 3 be taking responsibility for the charge?
Absolutely, because there's a conspiracy at hand here. So any one of them is guilty for everything. You can't exculpate some and charge some with something else because they operated together as a unit. And there was a conspiracy at hand here. even involving just the supporters, those who gave logistic support, are equally guilty of a conspiracy. And when you're charged of being in a conspiracy, if you didn't actually physically do one particular act, you are just as culpable as those who actually wielded the machete or whatever else, because you conspiratorially colluded to do this.
Well, I don't know what the law says, but I'm seeing here terrorism, that can get them life imprisonment, kidnapping, concealment and incitement, illegal mining on this particular one. So I may have to read each of the charges, but I'm sure you've looked at the 10 charges to find out whether murder is there. Perhaps the security agencies also want to be able to file for what they can get justice on. Because if you can go and file and it looks beautiful that you're saying murder and you don't get anything, that will be knocked off, and then you lose that particular count. So I'm sure the lawyers who have filed this understand what they are doing. I don't think these ones were directly they were there at the Oriri. I doubt, I don't know, but whatever, as you said, if you're involved remotely or directly, something should happen to you. And for terrorism to be there, if they get that justice against them, as long as terrorism is concerned, maybe the rest of their lives, they may not come out again.
It's not about the punishment, Jeff. The point is the families of the two people who are killed. Everybody was kidnapped, including those who were killed.
I don't think this is all. I don't think this is all that will be arraigned.
Maybe this is just initial.
I don't think this is all, because
we'll wait and see.
When they have to check to be able to be ready for the cases in court. I doubt whether this is all the people that will be arraigned. Maybe these are the first set of people.
Yes, they have to check what they can prove.
We have to give them the benefit of the doubt to see whether there will be more people that will be arraigned.
There are those who are even questioning, perhaps, who are those behind these people. We've heard of stories and reports where it looks like there are people behind these people. There are people financing these guys, or people that they work for. How come up till now the government has done nothing about that? But let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. It leads with something else away from security. It stays with the politicking. Ahead of 2027, Tinubu will beat Atiku Southern Coalition. APC boasts Tinubu will beat Atiku Southern Coalition. APC boasts, says president's votes can't be splintered in the South. Atiku Amechi ticket will unseat Tinubu and Shetima, says the ADC.
Political hot hair.
Well, you look at the achievements in the electoral victory of 2023, and when you do the permutations and you see where the votes came from and how the president and the presidential candidate and the running mate were able to not only just get the largest number of votes, but also meet that threshold of 25% in 2/3 of the states. So when you look at that and you interpolate it to 2027, what has changed really? The coalition that is coming up now is not much different from what the president had to face in 2023 and still prevailed. I mean, then it was 3 power blocks. It was Atiku with the PDP, it was Obi with Labour, and it was candidate Tinubu with APC. And I look at the lay of the land today and I don't see much difference, because I don't see that much difference between an Atiku Amechi ticket versus an Atiku Okowa ticket of 2023. So Amechi might be bringing something additional to the table. I don't think it will make that substantive of a difference, that substantial of a difference to alter the outcome eventually. Plus, remember, in this particular case, the president has a record to run under. From where he sits, he believes that his reforms are starting to take hold. The country is doing better in fighting insecurity. The inflation numbers, other than food inflation, the inflation numbers that came out last week showed that inflation is easing. So he has some things he can beat his chest about. NEL Fund is doing so much in terms of providing funds for university students to be able to pay for their education. So an incumbent always has the advantage of being able to run on their record if they did well. The other thing about it is this Muslim ticket, which was thought to be suicidal in 2023, that if you dare do that in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multilingual country, that you are essentially writing yourself off. Well, the Tinubu Shetima ticket shattered that stereotype in 2023. And they've taken a risk again. They've obviously done the permutations, looked at the calculations, and believe that those who objected to a Muslim ticket were not as plentiful or formidable as those who were okay with it. So maybe Nigerian politics has evolved to a point to where religion, ethnicity, gender, I mean, you were talking earlier about how now the judiciary is all led by women. So maybe those artificial labels no longer matter for much in Nigerian politics, to where the majority of the voters are just concerned with who can give us good dividends of democracy, who can lead us well, who can run the country better, who can improve our lot. Perhaps now all of a sudden we've relegated to the background all of those things that were sentimental matters in the past, and we're not paying that much attention to them anymore. Question for me, the biggest question for me is my life better today than it was prior to the Muslim ticket in 2023? I don't see that joint ticket has favored Muslims in any way. I don't see an Islamization of Nigeria underway since 2023. And I don't see favoritism in terms of appointments, in terms of award of contracts or anything like that. So I don't think this government can be accused, despite the fact that it's a Muslim duo. I don't think they can be accused of having used that in a biased way to favor their religion. So it's negligible at this point.
Well, Mr. Kitobi, some would say that that's just part of the story, not the entire story, because if a Muslim ticket was able to secure about 8 million of the votes, and you had a healthy vote distribution, you know, amongst the other two candidates, leading candidates, then it was not the entire Nigeria. No. You know, he didn't get over 50% of the votes, so to speak.
Those who didn't come out to vote, we can't count them.
Yes,
we can't factor them into the issue. So our population sample is based on those who came out to vote. We can't talk about those who didn't come to vote.
Yes, and so we can't say in a blanket manner that the Muslim ticket shattered the dynamics of the election based on the election results.
It shattered the dynamic of the election based on those who came out to vote.
Oh, well, if you say so, it's not sitting quite well from where I sit.
Okay.
And speaking of the other dynamics that you talk about, the results of you know, the incumbent for which they will campaign on, let's go to the Abuja Inquirer.
Yes.
And I want you to interrogate this, Mr. Kitobi.
Yes.
221 kilometers later, how new roads are redrawing Abuja map. And indeed, you know, many visitors to Abuja are talking about how Abuja is transforming. But if we looked at that against the backdrop of the other, you know, sectors of our national life, when the National Assembly says they're not getting constituency allowance, contractors are saying they're being owed, you know, what's the other part of the story as well? Is escaping me now. If I remember, I'll make a reference to it. And so it would seem as if why should other, you know, sectors be suffering the deployment of capital component of the budget, and yet we see that, you know, some are having a good day as far as, you know, allocation is concerned, like the Federal Capital Territory.
Well, I listened to President Tinubu when he went to commission a project, I think yesterday or the day before, and he commended Nyesom Wike as having been probably the best FCT minister since we started having FCT ministers, and that his performance has been quite stellar. So perhaps what it is that those who are probably more forceful or who have greater persuasive power, or who are favored by the presidency, probably get their own requests audited more favorably or faster than those who are way in the background. That's not to say it's fair, but I can imagine that if the president is well impressed with Nyesom Wike and is singing his praises, that if Wike goes to him tomorrow and says, I want to do so project, it'll receive quick attention, unlike some of the other ministries that probably are more in the background, not as vocal, not as public. Also, the FCT has always been the crown jewel of Nigerian infrastructure, and it has always received special attention. So I don't think that is out of the ordinary, but I would say the administration's record is a mixed bag. It's not, yes, they've staked quite a lot on infrastructure, but I also see a lot of work being done in education. I think probably the financial issues in terms of allocations, I think that whole ecosystem, both the finance ministry, the CBN, National Revenue Service, I think it endured a bit of instability in the early days, and that they've retooled and restructured, and that now they're kind of coasting smoothly to where we should begin to see. I think this new Minister of Finance, Taiwo Oyedele, I've listened to him on a number of occasions, and he inspires quite a bit of confidence too. I think he'll be able to work out the kinks that are in the system that has brought about either non-allocation, uneven allocation, people not getting paid. I think between him, Cardoso at CBN, who's also an egghead and very competent, I think they'll work these things out. You might say, well, they only have like how many more months to the end of their tenure, and nobody knows for sure that they're coming back. So Nigerians are to the point where we want results now. You know, it's been 3 years of hope. Where's the hope carrying us to? But I think that the government is doing its level best. I think it will sink or swim in 2027 based on people's perception on how it has done, which varies depending on what side of the fence you're sitting on.
When Chino Achebe wrote the book, That Was a Country, there was a lot of furore.
Yes.
But the rejoinder, I kind of liked that Chimamanda Adichie wrote. She said, we remember differently. In the 2027 general election, there will be surprises. We will remember differently.
Okay.
Whatever that means to you. That came to me. Thank you so much, as always. We appreciate you for coming on the program, for helping us make sense of what the papers are dealing with today.
My pleasure always. Thank God it's Monday.
All right, we'll take a break, and when we come back after this break, we'll be talking with a lawyer as we look at that the NBA has its 33rd president, and what is unique about this is that it's a woman, for the first time elected directly to be the president of the biggest bar on the continent. But it wasn't without its own share of controversy before and even during the election, because there were issues around ability to vote and the voter turnout. We'll talk about all of this in just a moment. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. This is the morning brief. Bukola, you have this one.
Yes, indeed, Kelly. And so Oyinkosola Badijo Okusoya is now the NBA president after polling 12,317 votes to emerge winner. And of course, the process was done electronically, lasting 24 hours. And so many would say this is a clear, decisive win for the second female to lead the organization. Let's examine the process now. And joining us this morning is another legal practitioner himself, Libros Oshoma, who joins us virtually on the program. Mr. Oshoma, good morning. Welcome to the morning brief.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me, Bukola.
I wonder where your vote went over the weekend, but you don't have to tell us that one. But just talk to us about the process and, of course, the fact that this is the second female to lead the organization. A clear, decisive win, wouldn't you say, based on the results?
Yes, a lot of people saw it coming, and it was obvious that it was going to go this way, especially since the electronic voting had been introduced. I think this should be the 5th one. And you find out that most of the younger lawyers who are technology savvy, it's easy, very easy for them, you know, to go through this process seamlessly, unlike the older lawyers. So the older lawyers are still agitating for, you know, the old process, the process of manual voting, gathering in one place, you know, and all of. So there's always a question raised about this process, even right from the days of, as I can remember, right from the days of Ukpoko SAN as NBA president. there's always been complaint. Oh, the process was marred with irregularities. Remember, Olanik Beku's own, there were complaints. Olusoros' own, there were complaints. Even Olu's own, some people went to court. Even the MBA, if you remember, the MBA Ikeja branch during Ubani's time, they went to court also, approached the court, and eventually, you know, that one was decided just by one vote. So until this electronic process was introduced at the national level, and there's always been complaint. And I would give it to Oyikosola Badejo Okusoya, SAN. She went round. While she was busy going round, campaigning and talking to different branches, others were busy in court in Ibadan, complaining that the process should be truncated, that they have microzoned the position to their candidate, and only that candidate should be allowed to contest. I did complain in that court one day that if we, as lawyers, that we see politicians go to court after election or before election and we complain, this shouldn't be coming from the bar profession, that we are complaining also, or we are microzoning, that it was indeed shameful. But I was shouted down because I'm not a senior advocate. That's you know, but today the results have shown, and like every process, because Nigeria is not technology domicile. We are learning it. So like every process here, certainly you're going to have these complaints of, yes, because of the crowd or the rush at that time, it was difficult for everybody to vote at the same time. Even America, I remember the first Trump first tenure, there were a consistent investigation to find out if indeed their process was hacked. And mind you, some of the people that are complaining today were the same people who were very happy when the process could not commence, you know, at the beginning, when the ECMBA did say that the process was hacked, that their server was, there was an attempt to hack their server. So some of them were complaining, yes, we have said it, that these people are not capable of delivering credible election. But when the process eventually commenced, these were the same people that were complaining, oh, we can't vote, they didn't allow us to vote, as if, you know, every SCN number carries the candidate you want to vote for. As if, you know, once they see your number, they know, okay, yes, this person wants to vote for this candidate. So all the candidates suffered the whatever glitches or whatever, you know, technological crisis that the process had, all of them suffered it. So it's always the case of the loser saying, no, the process was marred with irregularity. And then I also listened to the statement, I read the statement of my very good friend, somebody I respect very well, Okutepa, saying he has lost complete hope and confidence. Why won't he? Because he is the one who is leading the team of the opposition. He was their lead counsel in the court in Ibadan and at the Court of Appeal also. So certainly I expected such a statement from him. They were the ones that said the process should not hold and that it should be postponed until after the tenure of this administration, of this current Afam Osigwe's administration, so that we will come back to what we had with the MBA in 1992. Because some people have said, why is it always that when a woman is contesting and she's, you know, she's almost breasting the tape, then we have these issues of, no, look, let's postpone the election and all of those crises. So, but unfortunately, the ECMBA has been able to break that jinx, and then election had held. You know, some people voted in Canada, voted in London, America, and the rest. Once you are a lawyer, you don't have to be physically present somewhere. You don't have to be physically present somewhere, just like we used to have it before, where ballot box will be snatched. I saw the last election of, not this one, not this current last one, the one before last of the NMA, where the media, in fact, the media made a mincemeat of them because of what transpired. So that's what, we don't want that for the MBA. And so I would say, despite the challenges, kudos to the ECMBA and kudos, the process, you know, was without its challenges, but at least it was far better than it was before. And I repeat, I reiterate, I think INEC should begin to look at how to, you know, copy such processes and make it better.
Mr. Sharma, well,
Yes.
I'm not sure how INEC will be taking that, especially looking at the fact that your election, the NBA elections, has been surrounded by lots of controversies, as we're seeing. 26,000 plus registered, sorry, 82,000 plus registered, only 26,000 eventually voted. And there are those who are wondering, perhaps, why did the other more than 40-something thousand, why didn't they vote? Could it be as a result of some of the issues that played out? That's on the one hand. And then what indeed are the options for the candidates, Mr. Olumiwa and Mr. Lateef? What are the options? Because Mr. Lateef, I hear, has rejected the results. What are the options for both candidates, please?
First and foremost, let me address the issue of voting. I have lawyers in chambers who said they don't have a candidate, and so they were not going to vote. I have some lawyers who said, well, they will just vote for one person and then leave the other process. It's not in fact, all through the period, if you look across various NBA platforms, there were messages encouraging people to try and vote. Because of the numbers, that the process seems slow at some point. Even me, I know how long it took me for me to get my OTP, but I was patient because I actually wanted to exercise my franchise. So for some persons, they couldn't wait that long. They just felt, look, I can't wait this long. And there was a time the network was actually very jam-packed. And mind you here, like I said, Nigeria is not a technology-based, country. Our technology is borrowed, and so whatever it is, there are still many challenges. And until there are improvements, certainly you're not going to, have this seamless process. And then on the issue of challenging the process, we all know we're very litigious people. Starting from the market woman to National Union of Road Transport Workers to politicians to everybody. Once we have indirectly handed over our leadership selection process to court. I was in the studio the last time and we talked about court judgment on political matters. And so it is also very shameful that, for NBA people, lawyers, over leadership selection, who will want to go to court. The only option that is left for them, somebody said that we shouldn't be surprised that by this morning we'll be seeing court papers flying everywhere. Even before the election, there were court papers flying everywhere. There were two cases, in Ibadan. One by Egbe Amofin and then the Yoruba Cultural Lawyers Group. Even though not all of them agreed with the processes. And then another one by, former NBA chairman of Ibadan branch. So they were already in court, challenging this process and not wanting to go on. So certainly the only place they can return to also is the court. And then the court has its own way of dealing with this issue. But like I have said, I think I want to see a day in Nigeria where elections would hold, and at the end of the election, the losers will shake hands with the winners and say, we agree that the process was not all 100% perfect, but the collective is better, is greater than individual. And so we'll just, go to, but we'll make recommendations and say, this result, there's need to audit the back end. And another good thing was that all of the contestants all have their technical support team, also with the back end team. So they all saw what happened. They were all there. It's not as if they locked them out and say, okay, look, we're just going to have, the technical team of the ECMBA. All of the contestants also had their technical teams, also seated, just like agents monitoring the process. So, but the court had dealt with this before, and the business of lawyers to go to court. And so I would, even though I would advise that they let this go, and others, but it is, my advice is just, will rest in the realm of advice. And then to INEC, also is an advice to them, whether they want to improve or not. And I know the politicians will not want to, because if you do this, the question would be how about those places, the villages where you can hardly get, what do you call it, electronic voting processes.
Mr. Sharma, in fact, when that election was going on, I think on Friday, when I was hosting one of the candidates, later on I got a message from a lawmaker when we're trying to the back and forth between me and one of the candidates, the lawmaker said, and these are the people that want to nominate INEC chairman, literally taking a swipe at lawyers, that your election is already heated up. You're just 82,000. So, but let's unpack it in bits. First, I did have a conversation with people who understand the technology end, and one of the things they said, I don't know whether it's correct, is that it wasn't hosted on a dedicated back end. Let me just use a layman's term. So when there's surge in query, those delays happen. Some people, before they could get their OTPs, 1 hour, 2 hours, even 4 hours, and then when they get the OTP rejection, but eventually some of them, a lot of people were able to vote, but the turnout is lower than what was expected, 33%, as against the average of over 50. So I just wanted to put that out there. Maybe you can comment on it. But more importantly, is this issue of zoning. In fact, I was having a conversation with a lawyer, but correct me if I'm wrong, that said when it comes to the issue, Southwest, for instance, it's not as if other elections don't have issues, but Southwest, whenever it comes to their turn, there's always this problem of zoning.
Yes.
So you comment on that as well. And what is this? So in the Electoral Act, for instance, there's consensus and there are people coming out to, if you had screened as Egbe, what's the name again?
Egbe Amofi.
Egbe Amofi Odwa, if you are screened and these 3 persons are eminently qualified, they say we will go on whether you, because you're not the final arbiter, they have a right to contest. The natural thing is to let them go, but they wanted maybe a consensus candidate. Even the Electoral Act says consensus can only happen when everybody has agreed. So talk to us about the issue of this Southwest issue and this zoning problem that is plaguing the NBA.
Let me, as a lawyer, I will not I will not gloss over that statement by that lawmaker. The Waste Panel report did not, anywhere in that report, I have read it, cover to cover, there was nowhere in that report that said NBA will nominate INEC chairman. What the report said was that the INEC chairman, a committee will be set up by, all stakeholders committee to be headed by retired jurists. And then you will have politicians in that committee. And so because they are stakeholders, so the stakeholders will interview. Everybody can apply. And then the stakeholders will interview. And eventually they will recommend 3 persons to the president. So there was nowhere they said MBA would nominate. MBA can be a member. But if you look at, juxtapose this election with the election, the national election conducted by the INEC, and the election that brought that lawmaker to office, you would say that this is more transparent than that one. So that's one on that side. And yesterday I was talking to somebody and they said the same thing. Why is it that anytime this issue of zoning gets to the Southwest, there's always this issue of going to court? Like I said, we started seeing NBA Lagos go to court on election when it was Ubani's time, during the NBA in Ikeja branch. We saw them go to court, and then some people said it was like the Southeast and the Southwest in that matter. When during the Olu's time, it was Southwest, and then the Midwest also was part of Southwest then, and we saw, was it additional and co? I don't know if additional went to court, but there were issues like this also, and others. There were always issues, and then that also started the process. Also, I will not fail to say that in Afam's case, some persons went to court too. My friend and classmate, I really can't remember his name now. The name is there ringing a bell in my head. He also went to court, and just about 2 weeks ago, the Court of Appeal, threw away that matter. So it's not just the Southwest, but we hear the noise more from the Southwest, maybe because we're in Lagos, and Lagos, Ibadan, Aziz, the bar is seemingly, very vibrant and active here, and coupled with the fact that you have a lot of, media outlet here, so the news would filter everywhere. Unlike the one with Afam, the matter was in court, but it wasn't really that in the media, maybe because, of the vibrancy of those in the Southwest here. So I think that's also, lays credence to the fact that when it happens here, it is everywhere. And then on the issue of Egbe Amofi is not recognized anywhere by the NBA constitution. NBA just recognize zonal bodies. They recognize zonal bodies. So Egbe Amofin Odua is like, Amofin, my friends, is Bamofin. I think that would refer to lawyers. So lawyers of the Egbe Odua, wing. The issue is, like you have rightly noted, when you say it has been microzoned or it's been zoned to the southwest, for that microzoning it will take away the beauty of the democratic process. I am happy that, we had 3 candidates. It would have even been more. It would have been more. So it is not left for them. They can decide to screen 3, and more will say, well, I do not recognize Egbe Amofin. I am a member of the NBA, even though I'm from the southwest, but I still want to contest. It's not compulsory that you must, be part of Egbe Amofin, to contest, provided it's been zoned to your region. So this idea, that was why also one of the reasons why the court case failed, because this idea of saying that you people have agreed. If you have agreed, was it everybody in Egbe Amofin that agreed? And although, mind you, the lawyers in the team, some from Egbe Amofin, members of Egbe Amofin, were on the side of the NBA also, and then others on the other side. And in fact, after court, you see the banters, you now be asking yourself. Sometimes we all go out to eat together. So you now be asking yourself, so if we are disunited in court, why are we fighting over a simple election? Leadership, is there more to it? I kept wondering, till date I'm still wondering, is there more to it? Are there things I do not understand that is going on? But thank God the election had come and gone. And like I said, technology can be improved. There definitely will be challenges, but the process had come and gone. It is for us to take away those challenges that we have learned from this election and then improve on it subsequently. The challenges that we experienced in the last one are not the same thing that we have experienced in this one. There certainly improvement had been made, and improvement will consistently be made. And that's how you improve when you use technology. Yeah. And the beauty of it, when I read some lawyers who had traveled, sorry, quickly, Bukola, some lawyers who traveled and were happy that they could, access the portal and vote. My friend and brother, Evans Ophili, is far away in Canada, and I listened to him saying he was happy that he could vote, the moment the process began. Ordinarily, before now, it wouldn't have been possible. You will have to come and gather at the branch level to vote, and then midway, when the results are being collected, some will, get missing on the way, and some figures will be manipulated, like we see figures from collation centers from a voting polling unit to collation centers.
With so much internal disaffection and the litigations that you talked about before you addressed the matter of zoning, one would wonder about, an organization that is supposed to uphold the rule of law having so many issues relating to that particular subject matter. But as we wind down now, I'd like you to address this one. And you referred to it earlier, when you mentioned in passing how some challenges are peculiar to when a female contestant emerges to run for office. And many are asking, will Oyinkansola Badijo Okunsoya have a gender challenge? And some are saying, no, it's not necessarily going to be the case, because we have, the bench also being led by a woman. From where you sit, what will it look like for Badijo Okunsoya during her own tenure, being a female leader of the bar?
Yeah, I'm very happy that this has happened. We've broken the chains. Before now, what most senior lawyers do is, a lot of, male lawyers love practice. So they will send their wives to the bench while they remain in active practice. And so today, I'm very happy that most of our female lawyers are judges today, and they have shown their mettle, they have dominated, and they have shown that they cannot be pushed over. Also, you have FIDA. FIDA also is a body of female lawyers, and they have consistently maintained their own, and they are very strong association, Federation of International Women's Lawyers. They are not pushover. And Moyikosola also is somebody that had been around with MBA. She has played at state level. She has played at regional level. Also, she's been around. And the moment you're elected president, the issue of whether you're a man or woman, you know, it's no longer there. All she would need to do now, because most times you have female vice president, you have female treasurers and the rest, and you see them, you know, also move around. She has a big burden on her hand now. It's no longer about male or female, because that is why at the bar and the bench, everybody's addressed as my lord. So, and as it is now, Leonard Sik will have to go around first and foremost and reconcile, you know, as many lawyers as she can, and then try to build from where Afam Osigwe will stop, starting from the bar conference. There are so many promises she made during her manifestos and her campaign. A lot of people would want to see her actualize some of those promises, including, you know, investment by MBA to reduce the annual conference fee. So that's what people will be looking out for. The issue of whether she's a male or female, we've crossed that hurdle. We've seen it play out before. Even when the first female head of the MBA after that 1992, you know, crisis, our mother and the Sleden senior advocate, even at tenure, it was no longer about female, and Hirat Balogun. Until today, she's well respected across circle, in not just in Nigeria but in Africa. So also, whether this one is a female or male is at this stage immaterial, because now she's been elected. Those people who definitely have misgivings, her first duty will be to have to see how to reconcile the ones she can reconcile. And then a bigger constituency now is the entire bar, to see how, you know, she can elevate the bar and elevate the discourse, and also, you know, hold out the bar for not just the lawyers, but for Nigeria, because a lot of Nigerians look up to the MBA to speak for them. And that's why most times when things are happening, you say, oh, the MBA have not spoken. And so it will not longer be about MBA just issuing press statements. We also want to see, you know, the vibrant MBA that would be able to lead lawyers in, you know, either boycott or march or monitor elections, and then, you know, transparent process generally. So, you know, who says that it can't be? It will definitely happen.
Yeah, Mr. Shoma, so as we wind down, let's talk about two things that you, in your proposal, maybe you feel she can do to help the MBA in terms of reputation, in terms of management of the practice itself, because, permit me, forgive me, sometimes you see some court processes being filed and you're wondering what exactly, who is this lawyer that is doing all of this? But, you know, court is court. Things have to arrive there. So in terms of litigation, quality of litigation, that's on one hand. The other part is, from those of us who are outside looking in, well, it looks like every NBA is either pandering towards the government or is really playing, you know, the advocacy against, you know, policies of government. Where should the NBA sit at every material time when it comes to its relationship with government as against defending the people?
Geoff, it's not always all the time that government is wrong. There are cases where government is right. So I do not see, I wouldn't want an MBA that would just be antagonistic to government. Oh yes, because you want, you know, populist love, and then you just be antagonistic. Mind you, there are members of the bar also who are in government, attorney generals also. They want to see a neutral MBA that will be able to look the government in the eyes, where whenever they are wrong, to say, government, you are wrong here, and we are not going to stand down. We are not just going to defend the interest of the bar, we're also going to defend the interest of the voiceless Nigerians. So that's the kind of MBA we want to see. And we've seen a lot of women, you know, remember in Nigeria, remember the Olukwe some cookies who stood not just for women, but for the downtrodden. We want to see that, you know, in the MBA. We want to see, you know, not just lawyers filing public interest matters. We also want to see the MBA take up public interest matters for and on behalf, you know, of the country. But I think she can do it, and I believe she'll be able to do it. It's a huge responsibility And it's massive. It's not just it's not a tea party. And that's why sometimes I just laugh. This fight, this leadership that they are all fighting over, you would think that you just, get there, you sit down, you'll be sleeping every day. The moment you become NBA president, your practice will suffer. I won't even bother. I won't try it because your practice will suffer. In fact, you practically live in the air. Today you are in Ibadan. Tomorrow you are in Kafancha. The after you are in Warri. So your life is scattered. Your family, you have been nominated, mortgaged by your family to the bar. So your life now is a public life. No sleep, nothing. When there is crisis in Kaduna, they will call you 12 a.m. So it is not something that it's not a tea party like I have said. But I think that with the right tools, with the right people, with the various committees, she would be able to delegate and then achieve, much more. What I want to see done, the remuneration of lawyers is very poor. But now you have a lot of young lawyers who are saying, look, my mental health is more important to me. So a lot of them are even leaving practice. There's need also for the MBA to collaborate with the Nigerian Law School. Afa Musigwe started the continuous education program. There's need to take that from the law school. The essence of bringing the continuous education program was to ensure that the quality of lawyers and the quality of documents you see, like Geoff referred to. But at the same time, there's need to collaborate with the courts, the judiciary, to ensure that lawyers are sanctioned also for frivolous matters. And then this idea of, as lawyers, one thing, it might be unimportant, it might be mundane, but the quality of dressing, sometimes we see in court, is also very important. Very important. You see a lawyer wearing a white shirt with brown collars and the rest, So, but by and large, she has a manifesto, and one of them is to reduce the cost of to invest, for NBA to invest, create investment, so that the cost of the what do you call it, the annual gathering would be reduced drastically, especially for young lawyers who are not earning so much. Yeah. There's need to address, by recommendation in addressing the salaries and the payment of young lawyers, is also to make it a point of duty, mandatory. If a young lawyer is handling a brief, there should be a percentage of fee from that money to that young lawyer. That way, you encourage them to learn more, and also there'll be, Afe Babalola does it. Some senior lawyers do it also. And if we do it that way, that will encourage people to go into practice and litigation, knowing fully well that matters you handle, you certainly get something from it. It's
an important outline that you lay out for the president-elect of the NBA, and some would say not to talk of the 4,000 to 6,000 lawyers that are called to the bar annually in the country amid very, very few employment opportunities. So it will take a very dogged NBA, and creative one at that, to create opportunities for the young lawyers that are called to the bar every day to get, the very critical employment that they need. We must anchor at this point, and thank you very much, Mr. Libros Oshoma, for coming to give us an insight into how the election played out, and of course to the workings of that very prestigious organization as well. Mr. Libros Oshoma is a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on the program.
My pleasure, always, Bukola.
And so from here, we move on to the next one, which is the Nigerian economy. Kelly has this one.
Well, absolutely. We have explored the foundations of Nigeria's legal system. So let's get to take a look at Nigeria, another critical pillar of national development, which is Nigeria's economy. We're joined this hour by Professor Ken Ife. He's an economist, lead consultant, ECOWAS Commission, and chief promoter, Biosources. Thank you indeed, Prof, for joining us on the program. I'm not exactly sure where to begin this conversation from, because there's so much for us to dissect with you as regards the state of Nigeria's economy. Well, let's begin with something that looks like good news on paper, and that has to do with Nigeria's foreign reserves. It surged to $51.89 billion in 17 years. This looks good on paper. it looks like the government is getting things right, some would say, but for many others, it doesn't translate to putting food on the table. Prof?
Yeah, I still share the same sentiment that we need to make sure that those macroeconomic gains put food on the table. But it's a brilliant news, actually. You can't take it away from central bank, because you need to see where they started. Chicken, if a chicken will say, if you don't know where it starts beating you, you probably don't know when it stops beating you. So what happened was that in 2023, when they came in, our foreign reserve was at the lowest, I think just around $30 billion. Sometimes they say 27, 20. But what was more important is that the net reserve was just a little over $3 billion. And it was spreading panic worldwide on Nigeria's financial credibility. But what happened now is it's rebuilt, is now about 40 billion net reserve. And the administration came in to meet over $7 billion debt that they have to pay. And then they dealt with that. And then from then onwards is actually good news. But this $51.689 billion is not actually the highest, because if you remember, around that 2008, around that time, we had $62 billion in our reserve and about $22 billion in our excess crude account. Now, nobody talks about excess crude account. Now, they don't want it because that is usually where you have accretion to reserves. But if you notice that was the time when we had this crisis, the American subprime property crisis that nearly melted down our banks. So Sanusi was there, and then he took charge and then set up AMCON. And the AMCON rescued all those banks. Public 6 trillion naira went into it. And we haven't still got that money back, the only part of it. But nevertheless, it has solved its purpose. Immediately after that, we started having our crisis again. Now, is it necessary to celebrate this? Absolutely, because you have to start from the good news as you move to face the biggest challenges our economy is facing. What have contributed to this? There has been increased receipt from crude sales. As you know, the crisis is here again, and then we are benefiting from higher crude prices. We're also, government is also tightening the noose on a revenue collection, so that is also reducing some pressures. Then the bank has also normalized what the president asked them to do from day one. They have done to align the exchange rates, so they now have fixed, not fixed, but reasonably priced exchange rate and steady, and that means foreign portfolio investment are conveniently coming in, of course, at the cost of very high interest rates and monetary policy rates. So that notwithstanding, we're having that. So that is cushioning our forex. And the central bank has worked extremely hard to ensure that they go around with the banks and the diaspora communities to encourage inflow. And they are now confident that we could get as much as $1 billion a month. So that would be good news as well. So there are other things, lots of things that the central bank is doing, and squeezing the monetary policy is so tight that we still have to urge them to, at some point, to loosen the belt so that the MSMEs will breathe in some areas. But that notwithstanding, where we can't take it away from the central bank. They've done very well on that score.
Yeah, Prof, perhaps it's the strategy that the government, in terms of the fiscal and monetary authorities, have adopted, perhaps FX creation, because no matter how you want to look at it, one will suffer for the other. So for high interest rates and stable FX, that naturally will attract some of these things we're talking about, maybe for copy traders. And when you look at our treasury bills and some of those things we sell as instrument or will issue as instrument, and the high interest that comes. So it will naturally bring all of these guys in. So I don't know whether it is strategy of government to focus on inflows so that we can cushion the impact of the demand for those inflows. That's on one hand. But there's another part I want you to speak to, and I was trying to get to the Nigerian Constitution. I hope I can do that within the time. And that has to do with, if you look at Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution, it panders towards a welfare state, because you see that it advises strongly that income distribution is super important. In fact, the fiscal policies must be adopted such that in terms of economic policies of government, there is no income inequality. But you and I know that the income inequality is worlds apart. So in terms of reconciling this income inequality, because sometimes people argue that it may not entirely be a poverty problem, but it could also be an inequality problem because we're rated as a low middle income society. How do we bridge that? How do we redistribute our wealth effectively to close this inequality gap in terms of income distribution?
I'm really sorry. You haven't actually created the wealth. So what are you distributing? That's the big challenge. So if you look at the cycle is investment. And that investment has to go to productive activity. That productive activity creates employment. Employment creates disposable income. And from disposable income, you can tackle poverty. You can use it to pay for education, pay for health, pay for all this poverty reduction. That is the kind of economy that you have chosen. We are working on a free capitalist economy. You're not talking about command economy. So that's number one. So the issue is this: where are your investments? And are these investments going into productive activity? Who needs to make the investment? Investments are made by private sector and public sector. So take it one after another. If the public sector is making investment, where is it? I haven't seen that investment from their receivables. I'm seeing the investment from borrowing. So if you are borrowing, what is the integrity of that borrowing in relation to the fiscal law? And is that borrowing going predominantly to productive activities in such a way that it could generate those employment and then reduce poverty sustainably? Or is it going to areas where you are going to be challenged in terms of its impact and then how much extra load it puts on debt service? So put that by the side. Now, private sector, they are going to invest. What the first development plan, 2021 to 2025, wanted government to have 350 trillion naira investment. But of that, 50 trillion is all levels of government and 200 trillion were to come from private sector. I don't know where we are with that one, but that period has gone. But I can tell you, we didn't go anywhere near what we projected. Now we are moving into another one where what is expected is 1,700 trillion naira investment, of which 82% is going to come from private sector. So if private sector is being required to put as much as 82 to 85%, what are the enabling environments that will encourage them? Where are the macro and micro issues that are being addressed that will encourage them to invest? And those who are investing, how are you treating them? So you're going to have to look at that, honestly. Because if you begin to look at the PPPs that have come in, look at the massive investment that have changed the landscape. For example, Dangote's investment, and then you're going to say, how are you treating him? And then there are many others running on the back of that investment from 20 billion. By next year, it will go to 40 billion. 50 billion is going to Ondo for a new refinery. Bua is doing 200,000 barrels in oil. When you add all that, people are coming here to put money. How are you treating them? Are they happy? What can you make them to be happier so that more investment will come? And we know we have challenge. We are getting portfolio investment today, but we are not getting foreign direct investment, which will resonate with the private sector investment I'm talking about. So if we are not getting foreign direct investment, why? And what can you do? So what can you do? And then we are not answering those questions. Then you come to the welfare state. Now, in economic development, there are always two lanes. The first lane, where entrepreneurship and governance policy drive on investment. Then you have the slow lane where you have to take care of the disabled, the less privileged people. So that is where you are addressing the social safety net is coming from. But it is important to cater for the weakest in our community. But you couldn't do that at the expense of improving productivity and increasing investment, because sustainably, for you to sustainably do this, you're going to have to follow the cycle I described before. Investment that goes to productive capacity creates employment creates disposable income is available to deal with this matter in a sustainable way. That is not what you've got to get a balance. As the Second World War ended, Labour came in UK. Just to give you an example, And then they decided, well, we can't have our retirees, 75 years old, being in the street begging. So they started to stop that and started issuing benefits. But from there, new political arrangements, as they come, everybody pledges and pledges. From 75 years, it came down to 65 to 60 years. From there, they started adding widows and the single-parent families. They go on benefit. Oh, unemployed people, they go. You can add, but you cannot take away. That is the danger. That today you are not, and even a week ago, I was also hearing World Bank is giving over $2 or $3 billion. That is going to continue and that is going to exacerbate. And then you now have a situation where the UK population have become aged and you don't have enough young people with enough good jobs to be able to service that welfare state. And even America is having the same situation. So they are beginning to say, oh, let's do all this to bring people in. That is where you are going to be heading. You're going to be heading to an unsustainable public expenditure profile that tilts the way of welfare state without actually creating the economic opportunity that is going to create the jobs. And that is number one danger. But the biggest danger facing you are two people. One, NNPC, and that's why in 2023, when we were inaugurated in the Presidential Governing Council of Ministry of Finance and Corporation, I said they should go to capital market. Because the shenanigan around NNPC has gone on for too long, for over 25 years. Go to capital market so that people will see you transparency and they will start sorting out what you need to do. They are not doing what we need to do. But let me not spend your time on this. But if we have time, I can get back and give you the details of how dangerous that company has been to the country and how you can track all the woes in our economy to that one country. Don't forget, NNPC accounts for 90% of your forex earning. Because 79% is from crude, 11% is from gas. It's only 10% that is available to us. And CBN has worked very hard to increase that money and bring us to where we are. But we could do more.
Yeah.
We could do more.
So you're fingering lack of commitments to creating wealth opportunities here. And you know, the Guardian this morning supports the start of our commentary on this particular segment in its headline, which says, battle for excess liquidity, DMO Dangote mobilized 11 trillion naira in 6 months as real sector suffers. And we could talk about even the banking sector declaring profits annually, you know, but we do not see the same wealth in the real sector, which really is the backbone of the economy. But I'd like you to speak to, you know, the seeming contradiction in the results as against what the political commitment is. We've heard the wife of the president talk about grants to people to start off small businesses, the Akara comment for which she received a lot of backlash. We see some state governments, you know, also provide some interventions in terms of perhaps loans and grants to the MSMEs sector. Why do these efforts, combined with the government's social investment program, why do these efforts not translate into significant outcomes for the real sector?
I'm glad you actually went in there to talk about the real sector. Let me tell you what the biggest challenge in our economy is. One is because we have an import-dependent economy. When you have an import-dependent economy, especially where the dependency is around your natural endowment, then you've had it. God gave you some raw materials. God wasn't joking. He gave you some raw materials, oil, gas, 44 solid minerals, and then agroecology that is favorable to producing food, even without working as hard. And you decided to waive your right to add value to those. You decided to send all those out to somebody elsewhere in the global north to process it for you and bring it down for you to consume. Let me tell you what you have done. You have decided that all your export of raw materials are equal to exporting jobs and importing poverty. And then even if you look at, you see, the reason why we are not developing is because we have not focused on value chain. Wealth is built on value chains. The man that controls the value chain and adds value is the man that creates the wealth. All you are doing is that you are sending out raw material and then you are not adding. The highest value you can get in a value chain for selling or exporting raw material is 10%. Maybe if you are lucky, you get 15%. But you are going to borrow money to go and buy 100% of the product when it is processed and sent back to you. So the people that make the money are the people who sit behind your export, and then when they export back value to you. So that is the missing link. Our economy is import dependent, and you can't get away. And the strategy to deal with this is export-led growth strategy. If you tell me that your strategy is to invest in production to meet local demand, forget it. You haven't even understood what is going on. It is when you are focused on export of whatever God has given you, add value and export it, then you stand the chance of removing 400 million people out of poverty as China did, removing 200 million out of poverty as India did, and then when you now add Malaysia, Indonesia, South Korea, Japan, all of them together is almost another 200 million. That is the strategy that gets them out of unemployment. That's the strategy that creates wealth. That's the strategy that forces all your research and development activity to create more standards, more product. That is it. That is when you talk. But if you are going around it, sharing money here, doing that, you are not dealing with the challenge of the economy. And then for you to actually address that particular import substitution agenda, you have to make sure that you do what in ECOWAS, we are doing 30% value addition for you to accede to our ETLS. And actually, Africa Continental Free Trade is requiring 40%. So Nigerian Senate and the House of Parliament passed a bill of 30% mandatory value addition and sent it to the president since last year. For over 10 months, almost 10 months now, he's been sitting there, he hasn't signed it, and they don't want to invoke their power to pass it. Now, why it is important is that if you add 30% value, the $6.1 billion you are earning from export of this raw material will increase to over $20 billion. Just by adding 30% value. And then you will now encourage people who genuinely want to bring in equipment here and manufacture for those things that they know the raw material will be here. Not to come and bring their equipment and then you are busy exporting the raw material they brought the equipment to us to do. So we are not helping ourselves. That is the beginning. And then you will say you can give grace period if there are particular contracts or particular things standing on the way. You can give them some grace period, but you have to move. Okay, you took action against shea butter. Take action against all raw materials, and then give exceptions that you want to give, and then let's move. So they can have investment, open investment to come in. And in the same way, you have to do something about OPEC, because OPEC is going to block big investment that will come upstream to come and produce the crude that will be refined by the amassing crude refinery capacity in Nigeria. And by the way, we should stop lamenting, stop reading from the book of lamentation on what is going on in Iran. What is your business with Iran? Promote Guinea, Gulf of Guinea, starting from Angola through Congo, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, Nigeria, all the way to Ghana.
Bro.
That is a heavy, we have a concentration of gas and crude, and we have massive refining. That's what you should be promoting, and not talking about Iran war. Why are you wasting your time talking about Iran war?
So, Prof, I don't know, since you've brought in the OPEC conversation, United Arab Emirates, they have exited that platform. I wonder if you think that we also need to exit that platform. My second question will also just be quickly that historically, I'm not sure we've had it this bad in a long time. There are those who argue that it looks like we have very fantastic policies or fantastic economic reforms that by this current administration, but it looks like we are having these fantastic policies and economic reforms on a weak and faulty foundation. And for a house who has such a faulty foundation or weak foundation, a collapse perhaps may be inevitable in the future. Is that what you see?
No, that's not what I see. The collapse was in 2023 when Nigeria was on intensive unit, our economy was on intensive unit, and actually sitting on a cliff. So it was just a matter of a week or so, it was going to crash. So what we now have today is the country has come out of that cliff, come out of intensive unit, and is in a recovery position. And apart from doing that, look, there are three dimensions of our economy that if you want to seriously evaluate it. One is the political economy end, where this administration, in all fairness, has actually moved Nigeria, the one that has moved this closest to fiscal autonomy. because you have regional development agencies, you have the state are getting more money. The Supreme Court says give their money to the local government. You have RDAs, we are formed immediately. The most 3 times more revenue is going to states. Everything that you have a new development plan that is saying, whoa, move away from federal control. Let's move to sub, and then you're going to be world-based. So a lot of things are going on there, and you need to commend those. You come to the macroeconomy, the second one. The macroeconomy is good news. I've started by enumerating it. Inflation is under control, exchange rate steady, more money is coming. You can see the reserve going up, and then all the rating agencies, you can't fool them. They are ticking good. But the third one, the micro, is where you have the challenge, because they are not translating to more jobs. They are not translating to poverty reduction. Instead, they are borrowing money to share for poverty reduction. These things should naturally lead to high employment, but it's because you have not addressed the 2 elephants in the room. That what NNPC has been doing, and then why you are still import dependent. So the strategy has to be export-led growth strategy, and then you have to tame NNPC so that it will behave itself, because you cannot have massive investment coming into the downstream and midstream to help this country, and you are blocking it, and you are giving priority to importing substandard where you are strangulating the huge investments coming in. You won't give them crude. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
Well, Prof, it sounds like desperate times indeed for many Nigerians. I saw a report over the weekend that says that about 70% of Nigerians earn less than 100,000 naira, and I'm wondering how are they able to even navigate these economic hardship at this time. But we must anchor here, because our inflation as well, you have described it as not a straightforward inflation narration. You said our inflation is a complex stagflation case. I think sometime last year. But let's leave it here. Professor Ken Ife is a development economist. He's also the lead consultant, ECOWAS Commission, and chief promoter, Biosources. Thank you indeed for your insights, as always, on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is the morning brief. Let's take a moment now. When we come back, we'll turn our attention to something else. It has to do with our international relations with South Africa. Mr. President has been talking tough over the weekend about xenophobic attacks. We'll tell you all about it in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's talk about what's been playing out in South Africa, back and forth, the match and all of the xenophobic issues, whether it's Afrophobic or xenophobic. Well, we have someone who lived in South Africa. It was one of those that returned, I think the last batch of persons that returned to Nigeria on the help of the federal government to ensure that our citizens are safe. Well, his story is a little different. Let's talk to him. Sonny Usoro just recently returned from South Africa. He's also a pastor. Sonny, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
So I did remember that when you were talking, I think I saw the interview you did when you were, I think, in Joburg, plus the one you did at the airport. Yeah. When you were like, look, you didn't really experience some of the things they talked about. But so if you really didn't experience, first tell us practical experience of what you saw, maybe not experience, and what informed your decision to say, nah, I'm not staying here for this.
Okay, you know, when it comes to abuse, there are people who leave abuse until when it gets physical. Some leave when it's emotional. You know, it all depends on how you have programmed your life, you know, to go. So in my own case, leaving South Africa was more emotional than physical abuse. I mean, I lived in an area called Sandton. It doesn't have those kind of, the match didn't even get there, you know. However, I do mission work, you know, in South Africa. For the past 16 years, I've been doing mission work in South Africa. And most of the places that we go and minister to people in the townships are places where we would have to engage with local South Africans, you know, mostly. So even though I had security where I lived, but I feel like there's a lot you know, to the country than just where I live, you know. So I didn't want to wait until maybe I get, because there's hate in the atmosphere. Yes, it's true that there are people that, you know, that love, you know, people that are cool, people that understand life, that understand what it means to integrate with other foreign nationals, you know. But at the same time, the majority are xenophobic. They may not get to the extent of being physically violent, but you can feel it in the body language, the way they relate with you at certain times. You know, at one point there was even a pastor who looked at me and said, "No, you guys cannot hold service in this place. You bring your strange churches from outside South Africa, you know, down here. And this is a pastor of a church, you know." And we were having a service. I said to him, I said, "You're my brother." He said, "No, you're not my brother." You know. So I've had all of those things. The moment they see that you're Nigerian, especially, they feel threatened. They feel like you want to take over their members. You know, it's happening in the business sector. It's also happening in ministry as well too. You know, so there are those of them that feel threatened, like you can't really, relate with them, you know, at the level you want to relate with them.
What exactly is our offense, if I may ask? What exactly is our offense as Nigerians? What have we done? I mean, there are reports of maybe Nigerians are too loud, Nigerians spend more, we're arrogant, for drugs, on documented papers and all of that. But
okay, to make this, to put this to a more balanced perspective, there are actually a lot that Nigerians do that's wrong in South Africa. Let's talk about the drugs first of all. There's a lot of drug dealers who are Nigerians, and some of them get to the extent of putting young South African ladies in and using them as slaves, like for prostitution.
Wow.
You know, and some of those, we call them, yes, we call them heartless hustlers. You know, they have these places and they get these young ladies to become addicted to the drugs. So even while they are making money for them, they are also using the money they get to get drugs from them as well. You know, and it's very terrible. But I believe from the records, most of the people that bring it into the country are not Nigerians. There've been a lot of big drug busts, and they happen to be South Africans.
So you know, the sponsors may be South Africans, but the couriers within South Africa are Nigerians.
Mostly Nigerians and some other foreign nationals.
Okay.
And then white people as well too. From, well, I don't want to mention any country, you know, bring it into the country. So what the Nigerians do mostly are the ones who move the drugs within the country. And I think part of it, from some of these drug dealers that I've spoken to, one of them, I met him in Cape Town in 2013. He looked at me and he said he had a 2-1 in mechanical engineering. But he cannot get a job in South Africa, because what South Africa does is they put their citizens first. Unless it's in critical skills like scarce resources, they consider people from outside, you know. So they put their citizens first when it comes to employment. So over the years, getting a job gets harder. They make the system tougher. They used to have a general work visa that was rolled off. They started only issuing business visas and the critical skills visas, you know, and of course the volunteer work visa. So now with the business visas, it even comes with a condition. So it's either you are bringing in at least 5 million rands as a capital. You're able to prove that you've got 5 million rands, or it's a business that you're running with a South African citizen as a partner. You know, so before you can get a business visa with a life partner. So they've made the system, over the years it gets harder and harder. They even made it hard for, before, if you're born in South Africa as a born by two non-South Africans, you could become a citizen by birth.
All right.
You know, but that was rolled off as well too. So the government is putting in that system to help to make the immigration laws tighter so that it could favor South African citizens, but they are still not seeing it. They still feel like the government has not done enough. So they feel like there's still a lot,
All right.
you know, in the country. Yeah.
So, you know, some would say the history of xenophobia in South Africa is as old as the end of apartheid, and this is not the first time that we're seeing xenophobic attacks, particularly against Nigerians. We could, you know, go down memory lane and count the number of deaths of Nigerians amid xenophobia in South Africa. From your experience, you've spent quite some time, by the way, in South Africa, 16 years. So from your experience, what was different about this round of xenophobia? You know, you started with reports about some people of a particular ethnic group in Nigeria, in South Africa, you know, organizing what some misinterpreted to be, you know, not acceptable in another country, not their own. And then it snowballed into something bigger. So what exactly was different about this round of xenophobia?
Okay, from my observation, I personally think the advent of the social media has, you know, contributed a lot to it, because I think people are more aware of things spread faster now than it did back in the days, and they become more organized, because they're able to reach more people. And part of it also, I think, could be the trigger from what happened when an Igbo king was being, I don't know if it was a coronation or so, in the Eastern Cape, because this came up right after that happened, and there was some serious issues. There were it sparked up the whole thing before it now got to this stage, you know. So I think those two things, you know, must have contributed to this, you know, and because people are more aware and people are more informed, so they are able to spread their message across to their people, especially with TikTok. Yeah.
All right, so we're totally out of time. So, do you have any plan to go back as a person? Any plan?
Moving back to South Africa, no.
So yeah.
For person, I wonder what happened to your ship there?
But what about, you know, your investments, the things that you've built over the years? How much have you lost as a result of this big decision?
Okay, my stay in South Africa was mostly on missionary basis. So every other thing I did was more of what I run personally as a business, as a visual artist, you know, and painting and all that. So I wouldn't say I've lost much, you know, when it comes to that, you know. But like you asked, ministry-wise, most of our work was missionary until it was recently that we started as a church. And then we're meeting, we're, you know, growing to a certain stage. And when the whole pressure got to this level, you know, I told them, you're going to have to find a good church, you know, and get planted in.
Did the government do enough for you?
Yes. I want to use this opportunity to thank the federal government, because the government did so well in their repatriation. Yeah.
Thank you. Sanu Soro, a missionary in South Africa, returned recently from the last set of people that came back. Thank you. I appreciate you for coming on the program.
You're welcome.
Good to see you. We'll take a break, and when we come back after this break, we'll switch gears. Now let's talk about football. The World Cup, Argentina versus Spain. It ended as Lamine Yamal, one of the youngest to ever win the World Cup. We'll talk about it in a moment. Cecilia joins us. Stay with us. World Cup has come and gone. It's a day after Spain, champions of the world. And I don't know what it is with Spain. I think the first time they won the World Cup was in 2010 in Africa. And that year, I think they were European champions. And this time, again, European champions emerging as the world champions. So congratulations to them. I rooted for them, not anything personal. I just wanted the cup to be in Europe. And Messi has had his time. No, this doesn't take anything away from Messi. Yeah. He's achieved everything a footballer. In fact, what Messi has done in football, it will be a long time for anyone to break that record in terms of Ballon d'Or, Champions League, Super Cups, all of the cups, so many things. So it's interesting. Let's bring in our analyst, Cecilia Morgan joins us. Cecilia, good morning and welcome.
It's good to join you guys this morning.
Yes, it's sports on mobile. It's okay. I hope you're not driving. First of all, I want to be sure you're not the one driving.
No, I'm not.
All right, fantastic. Yes, we'll try to catch in Austin, but Austin, I don't know, trying to shuttle between New York and New Jersey, so if we catch him, fine. Tell us your impression about this. Did you root for Spain?
Actually, the World Cup. Yeah, well, yes, if you check what the Spanish teams have been doing, I mean, it shows how, not just how impressive they are, but it's also the fact that, I mean, they are European champions, you mentioned that, and they've gone 38 games unbeaten, including this World Cup final. And not just that, the first time in the history of the World Cup, you have a team who conceded just one goal to win the World Cup. It has never happened before. Clean sheets 7, the most. When you talk about goals conceded 1, you talk about the manager is the oldest one to win the World Cup. And of course, the Spanish team came to this World Cup knowing one thing. What is the thing? We are coming to win. And that's what they've succeeded in doing, really. And I think that, give it to them. Yes, the Argentines were great. Yes, Messi was great. But then, when it matters most, that's what people actually want. That's what people want.
Oh my word, Cecilia. It looks like the network isn't helping us at all this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good to have you back. I think we have you back. So if you do an assessment, Cecilia, of how the players performed, which players can you point out as those who perhaps made the difference on the night for Spain?
For Spain, I think almost every player on the field of play actually made a difference, really. From Paul Kobasi, the young player of the tournament. I mean, for the coach to have trusted him at 19 to actually man your back, I think that is a great one. Unai Simon is the only one I'll pick out because he did not, there was nothing for him to save. So outside the goalkeeper, every other player on the field of play on the final day, they were great. Now, for me, I think if I want to pick out anyone, I think Williams and Lamine Yamal, those two guys orchestrated everything. I mean, from a Rodri policing Messi, that Messi didn't even have the chance to do the usual dribbles and the runs he would do. He didn't have the opportunity. So I understand why Rodri, won the MVP of the tournament, because he may not score as many goals as the likes of Messi and Mbappe, but what he did, to orchestrate the team into ensuring that they are a compact team that could score not just goals, but also a team that cannot concede goal because of his leadership role on the field of play. So for me, almost every player on the field that they made were actually great, really.
Let's stay on.
Can you hear me?
Cecilia, I hope you can hear me. Cecilia.
I can hear you.
Let's stay in the field of play, and I want you to talk about Argentina's performance. Right ahead of this final match, I had heard many say that they wanted Spain to win and not Argentina, even before the match was played, because of the reference to thuggery and the resort to any tactic just to win. From where you sat to watch the match, is that what you saw play out again? And if that is the case, why has the leadership of FIFA not, addressed this significantly?
I think, I think that's just, that's just pure banter. If you check, people talk about minutes. You get.
We're losing your audio signals as well.
Yeah, Cecilia, can you hear us? Okay, let's see whether we can reestablish connection with Cecilia. But for me, my man of the match will be Martinez. Martinez saved Argentina loads of goals. And it wasn't about his flexibility for me. It's about his positioning. For some good reason, he knew how to position. So the ball looked easier. Yes, it looked easier for him to catch the ball or stop the ball. It was about positioning. And then there's one guy nobody really talks about, Cucurella. He mounted that level of pressure.
I was going to say Chelsea. He's not Madrid.
Cucurella mounted a level of pressure from the left, and because they wanted to go in from the left fast. At some point, I was not happy. I said, "Why are you playing Arsenal football? Come out, push this thing, blow it up, so that there may be a deflection that can help you enter." But eventually, they stuck to their style. Argentina perhaps wanted to absorb a lot of pressure, and if you notice, at the 70th minute, like something woke in Argentina. They wanted to bite, but it was botched.
Just like they did with Cape Verde.
Yes, they did with Cape Verde.
And England.
Yes.
Coming back.
I was afraid because they are good at coming back.
And you seem to be right, because this brand of football is unlike what I am used to in African football. This is energetic. This is comes with a lot of pressure and with a lot of tactics as well, unlike what we see in African football. I wonder if Sisi has some things to say about that besides the criticism of Argentina's style of play in the final.
Oh, okay. I mean, you're talking about African football and comparing with this World Cup or something.
Yeah, but I'd like you to address the criticisms against Argentina. That was where we lost connection through to you. Yes.
Okay, I think it's pure banter, really. It's pure banter. I mean, most people, you have the Ronaldo fans, the Messi fans, and you hear people calling Messi FIFA Piqué. And then the game against Egypt, because of some perceived or aggrieved calls that were not given to the Egyptians. If you go back and watch most of those calls again that people are talking about, some were not even fouls. So, some referees will look at it and feel, okay, it is not enough. Now, yes, the favoritism people talked about, I didn't see that really. I saw tactics, which if you are a coach, you want to employ whatever tactics will make you win games. Now, I heard you guys talking about Arsenal wanting to win the Premier League. They discovered that they were burnt before January. Arsenal were playing very good football. But from February till they won the league, they understood their strength. They know that, okay, if we come out, we may not be able to win this thing. This is what we want. How do we go about it? Arsenal that played very beautiful football before became, according to people, were now playing anti-football. At the Argentines, now take a look at all the games they played. Some people would say that, they didn't play very tough teams. But if you are 2 goals down, you're able to come out from 2 goals down to win 3-2, then you are a good team. If you're able to pull your team from the brink of defeat and then get to win, then you are a good team. So whatever cause people have, I think it's pure banter, really. I don't subscribe to that. You watch game critically not as a fan, but watch a game as an analyst, watch a game as a football, as someone who enjoys football, and then you know the rules of the game. Most people who are talking about these things don't even know the rules of the game, really. If you know the rules of the game, so you understand that there are instances where the referees will feel that this foul is not enough to get a card. There's some that is just pure simulation. There's some that is maybe out of malice. The ones that is out of malice are the ones the referees usually go for. If they understand that this is simulation on the part of the other player gets a yellow. So that's how the game is run. So when people start saying, Argentina got favored. I mean, there were some things that the Spanish team did, that the Spanish players did, that they could have gotten a card or something. But the referee look at it and feel it is not enough for them to get that card.
All right.
So for me, I feel, Okay.
We have to leave it here, Cecilia. The bigger anger is that this World Cup that accommodated 48 teams, Nigeria could not even qualify for it. In some countries, people would have been sacked, or people would have resigned. But here with all of the talents that we have, we did not even qualify for the World Cup. I was hearing countries at the World Cup that I've never heard before.
Correct.
That's what 48 will do. Don't worry, the next one, Nigeria will definitely qualify. Really. The next one.
Amen to that, Cecilia.
Don't worry, we'll send you to wherever it's happening. Cecilia Morgan, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate it. It's going to be a talking point.
Thank you.
We're hearing FIFA may be thinking of even increasing. Let them leave it at that. Nobody talked about the Super Bowl-like performance. Excellent performance. But for me, it was too long.
And then Jeffrey and Kelly, the Golden Boot Award went to Kylian Mbappe, right?
Yeah, you had the most goals.
Goals,
most goals.
yeah.
So I've forgotten who.
The performance.
For me, America. There was so much America in this World Cup. Almost 25 minutes of football. Performance. But we had our own Burna Boy with Shakira and all of that. But before we go, let's tell you how the ECOWAS has changed its leadership. Now the president of Senegal, Faye, who has been battling his political life with his political brother, Sanko, has now been elected the chairman of ECOWAS. So congratulations to him. Let's see how he's going to manage this process and see. I'm not too impressed with ECOWAS, but they are doing better for me than even
the African Union.
African Union looks like an elders' council, but we'll talk about that later. Well, that's the time we have, guys.
For the 6-year-old Diomaye Faye, it appears a new era for ECOWAS, considering the older generation that have led prior to his time. I mean, he has his work cut out for him, considering the exit of those other 3 Sahelian states. So we'll see how he's able to unify the region.
All right. Well, that's the show, everyone. Thank you indeed for joining us here on the program. We're back again tomorrow, 7 a.m. with more updates and lively conversations for you. From Lagos, Nigeria, I'm Kelly Egiga.
And let the week begin with so many positives to come. Amen to that. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola.
Congratulations to Spain. We'll be there next time as Nigeria. And Jeff, bye-bye.